The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
It's Wednesday, but it's like a Monday because we had a holiday. So.
Yeah, I know. And yeah. I think our viewers missed us. But, you know, let's not waste any time. We're going to get right into the show, and we got something to let you know. Screw you, taxpayer! You know, the mayor can't wait to waste some more money, some more tax dollars to benefit his friends and his political contributors. It was announced that Mayor Correa is seeking a special city council meeting. This must be like the special city council meeting we just had to grant one license to an auto body shop for somebody who was connected to a politician. Okay, $44 million in a capital outlay plan. And again, we're going to fix Purchase Place.
Of course.
And he says he actually has to do it.
That's the whole point.
Right. He actually has to do it. He has to. If he doesn't, his head's going to explode.
Yes.
Okay? This is infuriating. And why is he going to get this approved and put it down over 5 years? So you, the taxpayer, take it in the backside again. Bend over, baby. There's going to be no lube on this one.
Yeah.
Because they have to send out for a vote of the people for expenditures like this, because it exceeds the caps. Now, he's saying he won't exceed the debt cap. Well, I don't care. You're still getting $44 million of my money, and I just can't see the value of it. Because you know what? You're a little cretin. You are really becoming a Nazi. You are becoming an absolute dictator. You've already been told by the people, you've been told by the council, you've been told by the bodies that be that you can't do it. You turned around, and to make sure that you could make this happen, you turned around and you expanded the region for it to qualify because you needed more low-income property owners and housing. So you took it from Franklin Street all the way down to Cherry Street, because you wanted to end it well before then. Well, guess what? It's still not going to fly. And I'll tell you now, people are already saying they want to take a vote of no confidence on you. The public, not the city council, the public. They don't have any confidence in you, Mr. Mayor. Okay? They want to send petitions around to get a statement of no vote of no confidence against you, a statement of no confidence. I mean, I turned around and told the people, if you're going to go get a petition out to get a statement of no confidence, that's like saying, hey, look at us, we got a lot of paper, we're going to throw it at you. Instead, go in, get 10 people, have them sign an affidavit, and start a recall. Not that I'm all for doing another recall, but Mr. Mayor, you're actually asking the people to do this. You are actually calling them out. Okay? We are in a city full of chit. C-H-I-T. You know why? Because everything in this city requires that someone get a chit. Starting with your chief of staff and working its way down. Okay? For anything to happen, well, if I do this for you, you owe me a chit. And yes, Mr. Hoare, I did get that statement from several reliable sources. Okay? And now we got people in the public saying the same thing. Oh, I did this for you. I did that for you. You're creating a community of people who owe favors. More and more favors. And these favors are decimating our community. And you are the master of decimation. So we have the Fall River Office of Economic Destruction, and now we have the 6th floor Office of Decimation. I'm telling you, this is making me sick.
Well, join the club because, I mean, he does a very good job of painting this beautiful picture, how this is going to cure all the city's woes. And, this is going to, as he says over here as a quote, it's going to So it can, equipment, it's multifunctional, really important to the department. It's something that Parks and Cemeteries and makes, these departments will address the long-term capital needs of many departments. Well, I hate to tell you this, Mr. Mayor, but the capital needs of those departments are supposed to be included in every budget. If they haven't bought trucks in a timely manner, whose fault is it? Is it the department? Did they put in for the trucks and did the city reject it? So this is always the modus operandi. We don't do anything until it's in a critical stage. We don't spend anything except to give jobs to our friends and pay raises to our friends, $7,000 pay raises for people that haven't worked a year. This is what we do with our money. This is what we do with the taxpayer money. But we don't address anything. All you have to do is look at our schools. We spent millions and millions of dollars. Some of it was state money, but it's our money because we pay state tax too. Millions of dollars on the schools, yet they're in a total state of disrepair, many of them. Why? Because we pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in salaries to maintenance people, building and ground supervisors, that sit on their thumbs for decades until the building's falling apart again. And then what's the answer? Not the fact that there's no oversight, that they didn't do their job. They don't get fired. They get a pay raise. The answer is, screw the taxpayer, build another school, bond some more, put us deeper in debt. Well, the last statistic was 37% of the people in the city own property. When you get through, it'll be like 12%, because half of them will lose their house. There's no mercy, just no mercy. This is all about getting your purchased place, and you dress it up. You know what they call in the old days in the used car industry, you know what they used to call a car that had a beautiful paint job and it looked really great but didn't have a decent engine? They called it a camouflage pig. And that's what you're trying to do to Fall River. You're trying to camouflage the pig. What good is it to spend $44 million to dress up a pig? The same people that destroyed those neighborhoods will still be living in those neighborhoods after we spend $44 million. This has been tried before, Mr. Mayor, before you were born, in New York. New York spent millions upon millions of dollars rehabbing all their projects. 5 years later, they were just as bad as they were before the rehab. Why? Because the same cretins that lived there still continue to live there.
But you know, Chip, the thing is that this not only addresses a neighborhood. I mean, and we know that that's what this is for. He had to dress it up even better, because this capital plan includes multifunctional equipment.
Oh.
Okay, so that the park department and the cemeteries can also use the same thing that the DCM uses for the streets. And now we really get there, because we got to push that button. And what's that button in Fall River? Police and fire. So let's push that button. And we're going to get new police cruisers. Come on, you know what? If you want to,
Didn't we just go through that dance about the police cruisers?
yes. You know, I mean, we go through this all the time. Here's the problem, and you know, all of you supporters of this mayor, in my opinion, you need to have your head examined, because no matter how much of the facts is presented, you ignore it. This child, when he doesn't get his way, finds a way. All you got to do is look at people like Mike Aguiar, Adriano Ponciano, people who are unqualified, have no experience, and who are hired for jobs. Okay? Bucking the system. If you can buck the system, he will. All you got to do is look at Michael Hoare and corporate counsel Attorney Joe Macy. Retirees, collecting retiree pay, and finding a way to make sure that they don't lose their pension and lose the salary from the city. And granted, it may be legal, but is it right? Now, when we look at this, we have to say, take the emotion out of it for a moment and just say, is this the right thing to do for Fall River? No, you know what the right thing to do for Fall River is? I'm gonna make some common sense here, Chip, and you might have to come over here and hit me in the head.
That's the least common of senses in this city.
Why don't you look, instead of going, we need a capital improvement plan, which we do, say, all right, in the police department, let's include in their annual budget staffing and equipment. And I don't mean current staffing. I mean, we want public safety. Not one city councilor and this mayor have not supported public safety. They try to sell it by saying, oh, well, nobody got laid off. Big deal. We still don't have enough. Okay? Yeah. We don't have enough equipment. Oh, but we just got all new fire engines. But guess what? They can only use in a certain part of the cities.
Yeah,
so let's not play the game. Let's not play the game. All right? You all want to look and say, oh, well, this is positive, this is positive. Well, you know what? Yeah, we got new equipment. We're all set. Meanwhile, some parts of the city got all the old equipment that dies at a fire. So, I mean, let's get real. Let's be realistic here. All right? You have to have a realistic plan on how to run city government.
Look, let me tell you something. As somebody who's experienced this thing, this city never has a plan. Their plan is to BS the public and say, oh yeah, we're addressing these issues right now. They're going to get the money, they're going to spend the money, and they're not going to do anything to fix the problem. And then in 5 or 10 years, we'll have more problems, and they'll want more bonds and more tax money because they never forget it. They never do fix anything. Many, many years ago, we had apparatus that was falling apart. The city determined that, oh, we didn't have the money, and we couldn't get the feds at the time subsidized, so they rehabbed the pieces. Then we got a federal grant. During that time, as the president of the union, I went in front of the city council numerous times and screamed bloody murder that we should replace apparatus on a rotating basis. That way the fleet never becomes virtually totally obsolete. You know what that did? Nothing. Fell on deaf ears. City council, mayors don't give a damn. They don't fund anything. They spend all your money, and they don't buy what's necessary. Let's look at this not from the political spin. Oh, look, we're buying new police cars. Oh, we're buying new fire trucks. That's a positive thing. Well, how did we get to this situation? And have we been there before? Yes, 1,000,000 times. How many times have we heard all the police cruisers are crap? How many times have we heard all the fire apparatus is crap? Did they ever implement a schedule where they'd replace this thing on a rotating basis, where we'd never have a fleet that was either totally or nearly totally obsolete? No. They do it with everything. When they cut the fire department manpower from 300 down to 255, the geniuses in the city said, well, it's costing too much for their health care. So rather than pay their health care, we'll reduce 45 men from the fire department and pay overtime. It actually comes out cheaper. They were right. It was cheaper for a short period, and I pointed that out. But you know what they did? City gets in financial trouble. They level fund the overtime budget. 10 years later, 3 or 4 contracts later, firefighters have gotten pay raises, police officers have gotten pay raises. They have to fund those pay raises. Overtime obviously costs more, and guess what? You run out of overtime money. It no longer is cheaper to pay overtime than pay health care. Why? Because the city didn't give you the money to implement the thing properly. Just like the city doesn't give them money to buy police cars. No, the city gives them money to give pay raises out and to hire their friends. That's the problem with this city. You can spin it any way you want. It's all bullshit. And I can tell you, this isn't a theory. I can prove it. For 24 years when I ran that union, I complained about manpower, apparatus, nothing got done. The city council, the mayor, they talk, and this is what they do. Nice spin, Jazel. You're going to tell us how good this $44 million. You know something? We've spent millions and millions of dollars before on these kind of pet projects. And look where the city is now. Because no matter how much they tell you they're going to improve the city, until we begin to improve the city from the ground up, by making it a safe place, by getting rid of half of this low-income housing and the crime that goes with it, this city's never going to improve. This is just a big giant smokescreen so he can take care of his friend on Purchase Street. Period.
Yeah, well, you're right. And right now, I'm going to get into another issue, which I think is amazing. But, you know, voters, remember this. Because if the city council votes to take this away from you, you know, I'm going to go back to a quote from Pamela Liberté LeBeau, current city councilor. She wasn't then. You know, I don't care where the city gets the money as long as they get it. So Will Flanagan turned around and broke up a bond for an inclusion playground so that it wouldn't have to be voted on by the people, because he was quite sure that it would not pass the vote. That's what this mayor is trying to do now. This is the Will Flanagan dummy book, as quoted by one of our friends, who is a great chef. So I'm just, you know, stating a fact. Fall River Nursing Home is taking its lead from the Fall River government and Fall River healthcare accounts, because they're taking the money from the employees and they're not paying for their health insurance. So their health insurance gets canceled. Now, it was reinstated after Channel 10 got involved, but a local nursing home in Fall River up on Highland Avenue was taking employee money, and the hospital told one of the employees that you're not insured. And the administrator of that nursing home said, oh, I don't know what happened to it. I wonder where they hear that all the time.
Yeah, the CEO said that they paid off their debt to Tulsa Health Care, and she would get her, soon have retroactive coverage. Well, isn't that nice? Suppose they would have stopped providing her care because she didn't have premiums and she would have died. You know, the only reason they paid that debt was because they got caught.
Right.
Because if they didn't get caught, they'd still be doing it.
That's right. It's just like Fall River.
Government. Until they get caught, they still do it.
That's right, just like Fall River. So the Fall River Railroad Museum closed, and they're blaming it because they didn't have enough volunteers. Or
customers.
Or customers, yeah, that's it. Because, you know, the tourism trap just doesn't seem to be working down at
here's
Battle
a good excuse to bump up the tourism director's salary.
Yeah, I think so.
You see, the Railroad Museum, not the fact that nobody wants to come here.
Now, here's what gets me, okay? And granted, you know, one of our other commentators, which is on occasion, benefited from this. Fall River receives 2 bids for the former Coughlin School. One is from the old Holy Ghost Society that used to be on County Street that suffered the fire, and you know, people died and whatnot in that. And the other is from Joe Chico of Jeem Homes LLC. He wants to bid $6,000 so that he can put 4 house lots on there and sell them for $250,000 a piece. You know,
that's a good deal.
Yeah, well, you know, this is the thing. It's just like the Maris who bought land for $100 and then sold it for $13,000 back to the city. Bought it from the city for $100, sold it back to him for $13,000. That's an investment you can't go wrong with. Okay.
Yeah, and of course he wasn't a friend of the city. Though.
No. As a matter of fact, when he bought that, his friend was on the city council real estate committee, and she was the chair.
No conflict of interest.
No conflict of interest there at all. But you know, if we're going to sell these buildings for $5,000 and $6,000, and people are going to make $940 million or $994 million or $94,000 on this $6,000 investment, I don't deprive anyone of making some money. But hello, City Council Committee on Real Estate, obviously the land is worth something more than $6,000. We've done this with every building.
Well,
in the city.
Definitely was, because they bought it back for more than double.
Right. So, I mean, this is the problem we have. They don't look at what potential there is. Obviously, the guy needs to make some money if he buys this land. So is Mr. Pacheco connected to somebody on the real estate committee? Is he a political contributor to the mayor? Okay.
Could be.
Could be. We don't know. But, this is the problem. I don't deprive anyone from making money. But when you start looking at these things and you say, wait a minute, they sold that for $5,000 and the guy's making $1.5 million on it, there's a problem. That land was worth that then. And the city has to get what the land is actually worth, not what they want to get rid of it for.
Well, when they're getting rid of it to the right people, they sell it for $1,
Right.
$600.
Right.
They give it away when they know. Just like the land at Stop and Shop and Shaw's on the South End. That was
Right.
sold, I think, for $1. It used to be the Valley Steakhouse.
Right.
And I remember very, very clearly, it's been off the tax rolls for years. It's derelict. We'll get it off. We'll sell it. We'll sell it to a developer. All unbeknownst to the citizens of Fall River, but very well known to the administration who did it and the individual involved. They knew there were people eyeballing that land, so they sell it to a private person, and he gets a ton of money.
That's right.
He gets a boatload of money for that land. If the city would have hung on to it and sold it, the taxpayer could have got a break. But never, never, never. It's always the people who are connected. And let me say this. If the city sells land to someone for a song and that land is turned over very shortly for a ton of money, there should be an investigation.
Oh, yeah, no question about it.
Into the people involved to see if there was a conspiracy or collusion.
Right.
Because the taxpayer, again, is taking it on the chin, but nobody cares. You call the Attorney General, they don't want to hear it. You call the Department of Revenue, they don't want to hear it. And,
File an ethics complaint, they don't.
They don't want to hear it. And, people, Donald Trump says, the system's rigged. And you know something? He's right.
Yeah, he is.
He's right. Now, don't take that as an endorsement, but the fact is he's right. The system is rigged. The fact is the people are not wrong. They're right most of the time. But the old adage, you can't fight City Hall, is based on the fact that, number one, governmental agency won't do anything. They'll force you to take them to court, even though they have a constitutional obligation to be answerable to the people. They'll make you go to court. And the reason it's the old adage, you can't fight City Hall, it's not because you're right. It's because nobody has the money. Because they take your tax dollars with lawyers they're paying with your money to fight you, and they'll drag it off in court forever. They don't care. It's not coming out of their pocket. And the average citizen goes, you know something? I can't afford $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 in legal fees. I know they're wrong, but unless it's an issue of life or death, most people just go, well, forget it. We got to drop it. The first recall was dropped because we didn't feel there was enough interest to generate enough money to pay an attorney to go forward. And even in the second recall, which prevailed, and there were a whole bunch of people who like to run around and say they were part of this, we can show you the books. We barely paid the lawyer. And we ran how many fundraisers? 2 or 3? Everybody wants to be part of the game, but nobody wants to pay the band. And that's the problem. And that's the problem with government. Government has become too big, too corrupt, and every agency that's controlled by the government doesn't do their job. I just got a letter from the Department of Revenue on one of my complaints saying, oh, we don't enforce 32B or 150E. We just determine if they're within the 2.5 parameters. Really? Well, they're getting another letter back because I'm going to send it because...
And I love that because they sent me a letter about 6 months, a year ago, that said, we don't enforce 2.5.
That's right. So now we got 2 conflicting letters from the same agency.
Yeah.
And in other words, we don't do anything for the taxpayer.
We just collect the paychecks.
That's right. That's what they're saying.
Right.
We're collecting our state, our state pensions and our state paychecks, and we got these jobs through political appointments. And these agencies are all created by political appointments, and they're all political. So what they're saying is, hey, we'll figure out a bullshit excuse to give you people, but the reality is, if you're a taxpayer, we don't do anything for you.
That's right.
We don't want to do anything for you, because we're not going to step on anybody's political toes.
That's it.
And that's the reality.
Yeah. And speaking of political toes, tomorrow is primary day on a Thursday, which I think is totally screwy.
Yeah.
But tomorrow's primary day in Massachusetts. There are no contested races. I would never say this, but why bother going out to vote? You know, the only people that have to go out are the people running for the office, put in the one vote, and they're in. I mean, it's kind of sad.
It's very sad.
That's the state of Massachusetts politics, okay? Nobody wants to get involved anymore because it is such a storm. So, and as we're closing this, because we only got a few minutes left, how many people remember the ITT Technical commercials? Well, blanketly, ITT Technical shut down nationwide yesterday, including their Massachusetts campuses. And they're done. The federal government ruled that they can't utilize federal funds anymore. And they're not the only private, for-profit technical college, something like that, that's had these type of rulings. People have to ask, what's going on, all right? And, you know, the company said it had eliminated the positions of the overwhelming majority of its more than 8,000 employees. A portion of staff remains to help unexpectedly displaced students with their records and future educational options. What we believe is a complete disregard by the U.S. Department of Education for due process to the company. Hundreds of thousands of current students and alumni and more than 8,000 employees will be negatively affected. Okay? Well, you know, it's... Number one, they were found guilty by the Department of Education on some mismanagement and deception with students and loans and federal money. And that's where the accountability comes in. And accountability is important. So, I mean, I never supported any of these type of schools.
I can tell you one thing. If this was a state-run institution, and they
walk around blinders.
They did exactly the same thing. The president would get a pay raise. They would give them. They would tell them to fix it, no matter how much it costs, with taxpayer money, and don't do it again, and they get a slap on the wrist. And that's the reality of the country that we live in today. That's why this is fixed. And we truly do need a revolution.
Well, I'll tell you what's fixed.
We truly do need a revolution. In when we had the American Revolution, it was about taxation without representation. And what they did then pales by comparison to what this nation has become. Talk about taxation without representation. I mean, they just take it from every conceivable angle, and then when you try to get the government to work for you, you're a working guy. You worked your whole life. You put in 30 years, 40 years. You went to work. You did whatever you had to do. And now you try to get a break. Screw you. If you're a junkie and you fall on your face, like you said, CJ, in the last show, if you're a young kid that gets stung by a bee and you're dying, the school goes, hey, screw you. We can't spend the money for this. We're not allowed to do this.
Right.
But our state reps will make sure that we take care of every junkie in the world. Well, no matter what.
Right, and it's just very interesting that we see this, and it nauseates me. It truly does. But remember, this is how it is, because you elect the people. You're the voter, you elect them. And, it's got to stop somewhere.
Yeah, stop believing the BS that they give you. That's the problem. They market candidates.
I know. So remember, get out and vote tomorrow, and remember, vote logically.
Vote for the... Yeah, you can't confuse your ballot. There's only one name for every office.
Exactly. Have a great day. We'll see you Friday.
Stay angry.